Hey guys, I want to do a quick video on experiencing worst case scenario and how you can experience it and what that really means when it comes to OCD and how you might feel going through worst case scenario post working on recovery itself. Now, just as a quick thing, like with a lot of OCD fears, worst case scenario is not like an impossibility, right? So let's say if you have a fear of rejection from your parents or your partner or loved ones, of course you can very well experience that. Even at your workplace, if you're afraid of having like a health problem, of course you can experience a health problem. If you have a fear of, I don't know, forgetting something, of course you can forget something. So there is going to be a possibility of you experiencing worst case scenario. Of course, if it's something like existential OCD, at the risk of giving reassurance, like something like a fear, a very kind of like a physics kind of like fear of like the sky falling, let's say, on you. Of course, that is an irrational fear, but like the chances of that happening in reality are like less, of course, because traditionally, historically, the sky has not fallen down. But I mean, of course, like the brain will not be convinced of it and you will still feel scared. But what I'm talking about is like your day to day, everyday kind of fears that people are experiencing, like health with loved ones, relationships, friendships, workplace, making mistakes on a daily basis, like, that kind of stuff. So now, obviously, like the brain presents it as, what if I go through it? But it's not just a what if thing, because it actually can happen, right? People who have come in with ROCD, for example, and fear of their relationship ending, sometimes over the course of doing one-to-one calls with us, their relationship has ended, right? Or someone who's had a fear of developing like a health problem, they have ended up developing a health problem over the course of working with us. Now, what will usually happen is that you can, without even experiencing your worst case scenario, you can obviously still work on your beliefs and perspectives around that thing. I think a common example is someone who has relationship OCD, but currently is not in a relationship, right? So while they're still single, they can work on forming their perspectives and building some sort of foundations before they enter a relationship. And of course, going into a relationship, they'll have a little bit of a, you can say, head start because they've worked on their perspectives around that stuff. However, this does not mean that just because they've worked on themselves, going into a relationship after working on it, it's going to be completely easy and smooth, because they're still going to experience some level of discomfort, and there's still going to be an adjustment period, because now you don't only have to think about the perspectives, now you actually have to practice them out and you have to live by them, which becomes like a bit of a like again, like an adjustment period where you have to translate what's in your head to like more practical stuff, and that will take a solid while. Now, post working on recovery, let's say you've been working on recovery and it's been, let's say, 6 months, right? You've been working on a certain kind of fear and you've become somewhat better with it, and your overall level of fear has also gone down. You've become somewhat more rational about it, you've got quite a bit of compulsions and whatnot, and then in the 6th month, let's say you experience that worst case scenario. In this case, let's say you start dating you start dating again after 6 months, and after like the first 2 or 3 dates, the person says that, hey, I think I'm really not that into you, right? I think we're not a match. And suppose that's your worst case scenario. Now, the first time that you will experience the worst case scenario after starting your work on OCD recovery, you are most likely going to be really triggered. The first time that you're going to experience worst case scenario post starting your work on OCD recovery, you are most likely going to be triggered. Why? Because you may have worked on it and you may have made quite a bit of progress with it, but you still have not been in that way tested to the limits in real life. And that would be your test to the limits in real life. Because that thing that you have been dreading, or that thing that you've been scared of for so long, the thing that you've been working on perspectives for, is now taking place. So your brain is not automatically going to snap into, oh, I've learned all of this, so therefore now, I won't have any problems with this happening. Perhaps instead of being like a, I don't know, 20 out of 10 feeling with that worst case scenario, maybe you might be feeling a 10 on 10 out of trigger with that, but it still will be quite intense. And the reason I'm making this video and highlighting this is because a lot of people, when they will experience a worst case scenario and when they will feel and when they will get triggered, they're going to feel like they've gone back to square one and they've been like, oh, I'm hopeless. Now I can't get better because look, the worst case scenario happened and I spiraled like anything and I wasn't able to have a grip over my thoughts and my feelings and I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I've forgotten everything that I learned. That's going to happen. But like that is also kind of the point of experiencing it. And one, like I said, it's going to take an adjustment period to be able to apply your thinking when stuff actually may happen. And number two as well, it's also a good opportunity to learn what that trigger is teaching you. That means that you may have made some progress with acceptance on that front, but you're still not quite there and you're still feeling quite scared of it happening, which means that you still have some way to go with acceptance on that front. And you will also see that because you're triggered, your main go-to mechanism of dealing with that has then most likely been feeling extremely demotivated again, feeling like you have to procrastinate on things, feeling like you have to do compulsions again. The urges to do that will come up again. So you're going to see that, okay, so this thing happening is still affecting me to this level, which means that this is the area that I have to work on, or these are the behaviors that I think I need to give up, right? Again, I was not free of this myself because, of course, I experienced my worst case scenario multiple times as well. What was that? Rejection from friends, hurting other people's feelings, at times also feeling like I did not have anyone to rely on, having long periods of feeling quite sad and depressed. That was one of my worst case scenarios. Another worst case scenario was being overwhelmed. I can't even count the amount of times I experienced overwhelmingness over and over and over and over and over again. Worst case scenario of feeling exhausted and fatigued, experienced that countless times as well. Almost, I think, like in fact, on if not every other day, at least a few times a week, I would still experience that fatigue and exhaustion. And I would feel like I'm completely frazzled and everything. So, like, I experienced my worst case scenario many, many times. And of course, I was also not learning from those triggers or mistakes because I kind of didn't want to. I was like, nah, I mean, like, there's no other perspective other than the fact that this is horrible. I wasn't staying open to any other way of looking at it or doing things any differently. But anyway, my point in saying is that a lot of people will go through the worst case scenario, even post working on recovery. And the first time that you will experience it, there will be a very triggering point, but you can be the one to turn that around based off of what you learned from it. And also staying patient with the process of even feeling like, okay, now I've gone back to square one, right? And not feeling completely hopeless and despairing that, although you probably will despair and feel hopeless, but still, I still want to give this message to not despair and feel hopeless and still keep doing the work and not fall off track to the point of like, okay, now for 2 months, I don't want to do anything because of how badly I've been triggered. No, like, okay, sure, you've fallen back and maybe it takes a week or 2 weeks that you kind of like have to find your rhythm again, but try your best to get back on the horse and work again and stay on track with your recovery. So that was just a small message for today. Hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.